seems like we wouldn't have to do a lot of teaching. I think it sounds like a lot of people in this audience already know how to trade gold and silver and can make use of it. And it would grow by leaps and bounds if that were to occur, especially when the paper money quits working. That will be the only thing that left. People will go back to using it. That is the reason why we don't have to do a whole lot. We can just, you know, legalize the Constitution, and we could solve our problems, a lot of our problems. But today, though, there are a lot of questions being asked about the Federal Reserve, and we've made great progress on that issue. I've already mentioned too in the earlier talk of a bill I introduced this week, which I think is very important. We probably won't get rid of the Fed next week unless it disintegrates on its own. And it might happen. The dollar may crash one day, and then what can the Federal Reserve print if they don't? If nobody cares about the dollar. But the bill I've introduced, it's H.R. 1207, and this would require that the Federal Reserve be audited, that we make them open up their books. And once we get the books open and the American people know what's really going on, I think the enthusiasm will be overwhelming to not only audit the Federal Reserve, but to finally get rid of the Federal Reserve. We've gotten rid of central banks before. Jefferson got rid of one, and Jackson got rid of another one. It's time we get rid of the current one. You know, there was a time when I made a proposal, tongue-in-cheek, but sometimes I thought it wouldn't have been the worst idea. Just recently, I was responsible for putting into the only good thing in that bailout deal, and that was to freeze the congressman's pay unless there's an outright clean vote. No more automatic pay raises for the congressman. There was a time when I introduced a piece of legislation that said that what we really ought to do is just pay every congressman $1 million a year under one condition, that they never go to Washington. Just stay at home. But that was a few years ago I did that. Now I'm not nearly as enthusiastic about that. I'm much more enthusiastic about getting rid of the Fed. And the reason why is because of the Fed. Because, you know, you heard about the $787 billion stimulus bill, plus the TARP $700 billion, and you hear about, you know, the budget, and, you know, 100 billion here, a trillion here, a trillion there, but still, it's nothing. It's nothing compared to what the Fed can do. At least we have a little bit of say about the budget. Not a whole lot. I mean, we gave out the $350 to the Treasury, and they're wondering where the first $350 billion went. But what about the trillions? The trillions of dollars. If we didn't have Treasury, we didn't have the Congress, just think of how much mischief can be done by a secret Federal Reserve system that is authorized and have the privilege of counterfeiting money out of thin air and passing out, and they don't have to tell us anything. I can't believe we put up with this. This is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that the system works. And once the secret gets out, it will quit working because the trust will be gone. The only reason the money works right now is because it originated as a sound currency. It was gold, and then it was a gold reserve standard, and then it was a gold exchange, and then it went to the dollar, fiat dollar, and there's just a bit of a memory there that the dollar was once sound. But you can't maintain trust in a currency forever that has no soundness to it, and it's not a commodity. So it's in a precarious situation now. The financial system has collapsed. There's no doubt about it. And I've said it many, many times, whether it's had been Greenspan before and Bernanke now, the other day with Volcker. I said the most important thing we do as a country is admit that we are in a major crisis, and it's a monetary, it's been brought about because of the monetary system, and the system that was introduced to us and we've been living with since 1971 is over. And their Congress is up there, like, just try to visualize it. They have a small bicycle pump and pumping air into a huge balloon that has a hole in it that's bigger than the side of a barn, and they're trying to pump up and then reinflate that balloon. It's absolutely impossible to do it. They cannot put this financial system back together. I think you're going to see a tremendous calamity in Europe, maybe even before this country. But the trust is still there for the dollar. There's still a lot of trust. People are parking their money in the dollar and treasury bills, and that's one of the reasons the treasury interest rates are so low. One of my suspicions is that the Federal Reserve, in their secret manipulations, is to pass out money to their friends and buddies, because some of the big corporations and the big banks, the insiders that we say they've had control of everything, you say they couldn't be in control because look, they're losing their stock and they're going bankrupt. But what happens when they get a lot of money given to them by the Federal Reserve or Treasury, and they take it and they can still pass out billions and billions of dollars in bonuses under these conditions? Well, maybe they're just well taking that and buying up treasury bill, parking their money in treasury bills, financing the government, keeping the dollar system together for a while longer. But eventually, though, they're not powerful enough to maintain trust in a currency. Eventually, the trust in the currency is lost. And that is what I think we're facing. The financial crisis is upon us. I date the onset of the financial crisis that we have today as in March of the year 2000. I do not believe that the market really recovered. I do not believe the Dow was in a bear or bull market, even though it did go up to new highs. But I think that was the big date to look at in history. But they were able to reinflate once again and create one more bubble. And that, of course, was the housing bubble, which lasted nearly a decade, but that's over and done with. And now the last thing left is the trust in the dollar and the bond bubble and the treasury bill bubble, which eventually will go. Because if it doesn't go, if what I'm saying is absolutely wrong, what it would mean to us as Americans is that none of us have to work again. We don't have to. All we have to do is keep printing the money and making people overseas work hard and sell us stuff. And one of the reasons why it's come apart is it was an unsound system. There was no structure, no foundation to it, and that is all over. Now, the description of where we are financially is important because it is the incentive for all of us to do the job we're supposed to do. Now, our first responsibility is to ourselves and our family, to try to protect ourselves and our family, take care of them. And to me, we can do that financially in other ways. Education and training and having an understanding of what's happening, but a real education and understanding of how the system works. But then, we do invest and we do try to protect our investments, but ultimately, the investment that I think really counts is the investment that you're making on a weekend like this, investing your time and your energy to come together and become conspirators. Now you want to be part of the conspiracy. But we're going to conspire with better ideas than they have, and that's a good conspiracy. And if you have the right ideas and you're on the side of truth, you have a much better chance of winning. And that's the reason. Economics is that we can make pretty good projections about what will happen, really complicated projections. That if you allow a secret central bank to create money out of thin air and you create it with nothing to back the currency, if you duplicate the currency enough, the value of the currency goes down. Really complicated, double the size of the currency or the money supply, and that value of that currency will go down.